Hi everyone, welcome to webinar number 2 for Scan Pro Video, MediaCity Training, and just going to power up some things, just going to check my monitors are working. Got a monitor just to see. Here we go. So welcome to webinar number 2. I'm going to go to my PC, and you can see on the screen that I've got, just by way of a little bit of an intro, this is a slide deck that I prepared. Ignore the fact that it says Scan Pro Video Webinar Episode 1. This is in fact Episode 2, so just trust me on that. For those of you that didn't see the one that we did last Thursday, I'll just give you a bit of an intro about me. So my name's Alex. I'm a certified instructor for Premiere Pro. I'm also a freelance editor, worked on quite a lot of things, worked with quite a lot of people, and I also basically go out and do consultancy for workflow, that kind of thing. This slide here gives you a bit of an insight into the people that I've worked with in the past, some of the jobs I've done, some of the people I've worked for, and it's basically, the whole thing is all about Premiere Pro. I've been using Premiere Pro since about 1999. And the one thing about Premiere that the more you use it, the more you realise that you don't know about it. And that's one of the things you the more sort of wise and experience you get in one application or another, the more you realise, oh my god, this does lots of other things that I didn't realise. And when you start to use it at the sharp end, you see that, there's lots of quicker ways of doing things and ways of improving workflow, that kind of thing. One of the things you'll see on this slide is I was Edit Suite support manager for the FIFA World Cup Russia 2018 in Moscow, and like I said, using it at the sharp end, we definitely did that there. So this webinar that we're looking at right now is titled Getting Efficiency, or basically getting up to speed, or making sure that you're using the tool to the best of your ability. And so what I'd like to show you in this hour is some of the techniques that I use to cut stuff that I found that sped me up over the years. There are many different ways to use Premiere Pro, and there are many different sort of jobs within the post-production area, but on the slide you can see right now is 7 phases, which if you saw the webinar last week, you will have seen the 7 phases. You will have seen this slide. I'm not going to go through it into too much detail, but if you have a look, you focus on the number 3 in this list. 3 is making the rough cut, and that's the bit that today I want to focus on. And I want to sort of give you an insight into some of the way that I'll do stuff, like when I get fresh material, like how I'll deal with it, how I'll go through it. Obviously, when you're editing, one of the most time-consuming things that you'll get involved in is actually going through the material. So the quicker you can do that and get an appreciation of what sort of content you're working with, the better. And that's what this hour session is sort of geared towards. So with that being said, that's a pretty useless slide. Let's just ignore that one. This particular session is going to focus quite heavily on shortcuts. Shortcuts are the key towards speeding things up, and sort of I've heard a saying, it's just editing at the speed of thought. So rather than the UI and the buttons and all that sort of stuff getting in the way, if you're a bit more sort of one with your keyboard, things happen quicker, you make more creative decisions, and you become a better editor, because using the keys, you're focusing on the content and the story rather than pressing bits of the UI and that kind of thing. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go and open up Premiere Pro, and what we're looking at here is a project that I've created for the benefits of training, for the purpose of me going through and showing you some of these techniques. Now, on this timeline, if I zoom in a little bit, okay, I don't want to do that. Zoom in a little bit. I've got some pre-built sequences that I've created in order to show you these techniques. But what I want to do first is show you the way that I will build and edit from the very beginning. So let's just pretend we don't have any of these. I'm going to close these down. I'm going to go to Media and Master Clips and Cheshire Classic. This material that you're looking at here is material that I used to train with, and I have used to train with for a very long time. So I've zoomed a little bit into the I don't need to go to PC. So I've zoomed a little bit into the timeline, into the project window for you there, sorry. And you can see that inside the project window, I've got a series of bins. If I'm going to go here and open up my media bin and scroll through, and here we are. Where are we? We are in Cheshire Classic. So this Cheshire Classic folder is, as I was mentioning before, it's training material that I've used for quite a long time now, and it consists of shots that were recorded on an EX1, which is an old school camera from back in the day, really nice camera, and also shots from a 7D, which was one of the first sort of DSLR shooter cameras, the 5D, the 7D. They were used quite heavily for this sort of job. Anyway, I want to open up the cutaways folder. And one good tip is there's different ways to open folders. You've got your expand or your collapse arrow, and that will open or close a folder as you would expect to see. But if I actually double click this folder, I will go inside this folder, and now I'm going to use the shortcut that I described last week, which is the tilde key. And on a PC, if you look to your keyboard, that's where the escape key is, just below the escape key. And that key will maximize the window. Whichever window it is your cursor is currently over, that will maximize the window. Okay, so that is an awesome key. If you're not aware of that one, become aware of it. It's wonderful for so many reasons. But anyway, on this occasion, we're going to use that tilde key to expand the project window, and we're actually now, you can see inside this bin, and we can't see any of the other elements that are involved in the project. So we can actually see a file path here, so that's our root project, then that's our media bin, master clips, Cheshire Classic 7D cutaways. So we're actually inside the 7D cutaways folder. If at any point we need to cycle back through the folders to get to the root level, we can click this and it will cycle back. But on this occasion, what we want to do is get more of an idea about what these clips are, and we sort of going to begin our edit. So we need to know what we're looking at. Now in the project window towards the bottom left hand corner, you'll see that we've got different ways to have the project window set up. If we switch the current view to icon view, the default, in my opinion, should be list. It isn't always. Sometimes you'll find that the default becomes to icon view, which is useful but not all the time. If we switch over to icon view, what you'll see is we now get actual live thumbnails of these clips. Now I'm looking for the clip that I want. And the cool thing about that is if you hover across, it actually shows you the contents of the clip live. So this is basically scrubbing through the clip without even the need to click. That is an extra special time saver, because it just gives you a really quick appreciation about what kind of material you're looking at. You can also add in and out points into in this view. So if I click this, I then get a mini playhead, and I can actually scrub forward and make an in and an out decision. But that's just by the by. We're not actually going to do it this way. We're going to do the traditional way of viewing this material and adding it into the source window. Okay, now this is the first tip. When you have, just going to switch it back to list view there, when you have a series of clips and you want to start viewing and you want to start making selections on those clips, the first thing you can do is, you probably know that if you click and drag this and drag it into your source window, then it is in your source window, and we can use our playhead and scrub forward. But what about if we want to add more than one item to the source window? On this occasion, what we can do is we can make a group selection of all these items, and then I can click and drag them to the source as a bulk. And when you drag them as a bulk list, then it's not immediately revealed that you've actually done this. There's nowhere that it doesn't say, oh, you've added more than one to the source. To reveal the assets that have been added to your source window, you need to click the panel menu, or flyout menu as I call it, or burger menu as some people call it. And towards the bottom of the list, you'll see all of the items that you've added to the source window during this session. And so if you need to flip from one to the next, it's just a case of let's move to the next, and it's quite simple to do that with your mouse. So this is, as I mentioned, the beginning of an edit, so we're just getting an appreciation as to what sort of material we're working with. Now, using the mouse to switch from this view, from this clip to the next clip to the next clip, is a little bit time consuming, and it's a little bit over the top, and it's a little bit more time consuming than it actually needs to be. So I'm just going to check my phone. I think I've added a message. Yeah, that'll be some BBC bite-sized stuff. So I'm gonna play. Okay, now that's the first thing. I don't know if you got a really bad burst of noise there, but I did. So I'm just gonna kill my desktop audio temporarily. Actually, do you know what we're gonna do? We are going to go to Clip Mixer, and we're gonna mute that clip, and I'm just gonna stack that there up there, so to be sure that they're all muted as we play them. Okay, so one thing we don't have right now is we don't have a sequence. Now, further webinars I'll do in the future, possibly we'll talk about the whole thing you need to know about sequences. See, it's so crucial to know about sequences. They are sort of, I would argue, the most important thing to be aware of when you're working in Premiere, because although it is possible to repurpose things once they're on a sequence, ideally you want to think about the delivery of your project before you even start editing. So if you think, right, our delivery is 1920 by 1080, or it's Ultra HD, that will influence the decision that you make about when you make your sequences. But this webinar is not about sequences today. So all I'm going to do is I want to my first clip is this one, and I'm going to use this time I'm going to use the keyboard shortcuts. Now, if I go to the full screen cam, the keyboard shortcuts I'm going to show you, I don't have a slide deck with them written down, so if you're following this along, feel free to in the comments just post the message and say, oh, that shortcut, which was this one, and then I'll come in and answer those questions. But just try and write these down as you can, because I've not been as organised as I would like to have been with notes and stuff. Normally when I'm training, you get notes and you can write things down. So if you don't have to write these things down. Anyway, we have a clip in front of us. We want to make some selections on that clip, okay? And I'm going to use the keyboard to do that. So you'll all know most likely that spacebar, we need to mute this clip. You'll all know most likely that spacebar will start to play a clip. Spacebar will stop a clip, okay? Your J, K, and L keys, most likely you'll know about these as well, but if you don't, then definitely put those in your mind. What J does is if you hit J, it will begin a reverse, and what L does, if you press it once, it will begin play forward. If you press it more than once, you'll get an incremental speed increase. So if I press it twice, the clip will play twice as fast. So I need to go picture in picture. So if I go L, and then L, and then L, and then L, you'll see that it plays double speed, 4 speed, 8 speed, 16 speed, and so on and so forth. Now, most likely you know about that. Cool, good. Most likely as well you know about the I and the O keys. Now, on the keyboard, you'll see J, K, L, and then above that you'll see I and O. And these keys are all grouped together in such a way that this task is on a small sort of section of the keyboard here. Editors like me, if I have to stretch like over there, I feel like I'm reaching too far. It's like this is my comfort zone. I've recently added this into the mix, the Loop Deck CT, which I've just given a bit of a trial run at the moment, and so far I'm loving it. It's really cool. But anyway, J, K, L, I, and O, in and out. And also the keys that I want you to put on your radar right now as well is comma and full stop. Okay, but let's just build an edit. I'm just going to run through and build an edit for you. So I'm going to start this clip from the very beginning, hit the space bar, and around about 3 seconds, the clip steadies itself, and I'm going to use the I key to mark it in. Now I'm going to press play. And I want to take a chunk of that, a usable chunk of this, and I'm going to be a little bit generous with it, because being generous allows me in the rough cut phase to take some clips and add them to the timeline and give myself a little bit of handles. That's what you really need in the rough cut phase, because you're viewing the material and you're casting aside the stuff that's useless, so there's any zooms or repositions, if the shot's not nice, whatever, and you're keeping the good stuff, and that's what we're doing now. Okay, so I made a selection on the in and out here, and I'm going to drag this to the empty timeline. I'm going to let go there, and what that's going to do is create a brand new sequence, and that sequence matches the material that I'm looking at in the source window. Codec, frame rate, resolution, all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into too much about sequences, just take the point that this is possibly how you guys will add things, how we'll make sequences already. I'm not going to go too deep into this. I'm going to assume that you know what we're doing here. We've got a sequence. We're going to start building a series of selections from this material. Okay, so zooming out a couple of steps, I've now got a clip on the timeline. I want to see if there's anything more to be used from this clip. So one thing to bear in mind is I am parking my playhead at the end of this clip here. So I'm going to basically clicking and dragging there. I'm going to click and drag, but hold the shift key, and the shift key will go snap, snap, and that depends. This function here, this behavior, depends whether you've got this turned on or not. By default, I have it turned off, but the shortcut to turn on and off, depending on which task you're on, is S. So if I show you here, I go S, 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 S. So when it's when the icon is not lit up, as in when it's not blue, that means it's inactive, and when it's lit up, it's blue, and that means it's active. Okay, so park the playhead there. We're going to look here, and we're going to use JKL key. I'm not going to use the mouse. At some point, the camera's going to reframe. Yep, there you go. Scrub forward, scrub forward. Okay, now we have here, the camera steadies up, and I'm going to mark it in there, and I'm going to take that portion there. Don't really like it where it sort of pulls over there, so I'm going to leave it there. I can see from my source window display here that portion I've marked is 2 seconds in duration, and if you hover over there, it will tell you in-out duration, and that tells you 2 seconds. Cool. Now, I told you at the beginning of this that there were some shortcuts as well as J, K, L, and I and O that I was going to mention. Comma and full stop, and if you look at those in relation to the JKL keys, you'll see that they sit directly beneath. And on this Logic keyboard that I have, this Premiere Pro Logic keyboard that I have, which I absolutely love, comma is labeled as insert, and full stop is labeled as overwrite. So if I was to hit the overwrite key, it overwrites just this is a bit of a lesson here. It overwrites the video portion on video 1, and that's me being careless. So let's undo that, and let's focus on these little bits here. So these are your source assignment and your track patching. I want any clips that come from the source window to go onto video 1 and audio 1, and so I will configure it like that. Basically, what we have here is we have my video patch assigned to video 1, and video 1 is also active, and my audio 1 patch assigned to audio track 1, and that is also active. So that's what I want. So let's whiz the playhead back to where it was, and let's do that same thing again. Well, full stop. Now, the full stop inserts the portion of that clip that I chose onto the timeline at the location of the playhead. And that is a 3-point edit. If you've never heard the term 3-point edit, essentially a 3-point edit refers to point 1, which would be your in point on the source, in this context anyway, import on the source, and point 2 is your input on is your out point in the source, And point 3 of a third point edit is the point at which that clip arrives on your timeline. That will be point 3, and it's dictated by the playhead. What you see now, we've made this edit. The clip has arrived exactly where the playhead was. It's used that as its intro point, is its place of origin, and it's also pushed the playhead to the end of that clip. What that means is it's ready to receive another one. So if we go back and see if we can find one more clip, just going forward. Okay, probably don't like that moment so much. Okay, so the camera's now going to reposition. I'm just going to use my JKL keys. Also, your I and your O keys, not your I and your O, your forward arrow and your back arrow will move forward a frame and back a frame. So if I just use my forward frame, and around about there it tidies up and I'm happy, so I'm going to mark it in. I'm going to press the space bar again. Let's roll this clip. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to take it from there. Let me see what the bit that makes me happy. Let's take it from there. That all works fine. I like the shot. Quite a lot of movement in this shot, but there's no movement in the shot. The movement's in the scene, and I like it. It's a good shot. So maybe there's a bit more I can take from that. Maybe I'll mark it in there. I've actually marked up a 5-second chunk, 5 seconds and 4 frames chunk out of this. So I'm gonna again make sure my playhead, I know it was in the right place anyway, but I'm just being cautious. I'm going to take the in and the out, and then we'll drop this onto the sequence like that. Now, this is possibly how you're already working, but the bit that will speed you up is the bit that's about to follow. So you'll notice when you click a window that it gets focus, and what we mean by focus is that if it's the active window, it will have a blue box drawn around it. So if my project window is active, it will have a blue box around it. If my source window is active, blah blah blah, so on and so forth, you get the idea. But you can actually make the windows active by using shortcuts, and this is where things start to speed up a little bit, so bear with me. If you want to make the project window active, you press Shift 1. Okay, so now the project window has focus, and all of the shortcuts that will be assigned to the project window will be active because that's the one that's got focus. If I hit Shift 2, that now makes my source window active. So if I want a JKL, I can continue to mark portions of this clip that make sense to me. So let's go forward and mark another one. Let's just set this one up there so they're on the rollers. Rollers. That'll do. Let's take scroll forward. So there's 5 seconds there. Okay, now stick with me. Shift 1 is project. Shift 2 makes your source window active. Shift 3 makes your timeline active. So now the timeline's active, and I can actually go and start to view. We need to just mute that. We can start to view any clips that are on the timeline. Now I can, using my up and down arrow keys, jump up and down from any point here, from edit point to edit point. Okay, so again, I want to add more stuff to this, so I'm going to make sure my playhead sits at the end of the last clip, and I'm going to go Shift 2 to make my source window active again, and I'm going to see if there's anything else we can take from this. Let me just see if I already took that one. Yeah, no I didn't, so I'm going to go Shift 2, and I'm going to hit the full stop key. I'm going to go Shift 3 and zoom out a little bit, and back to Shift 2, and let's see if there's any more clips to be had. Okay, so scroll forward. Okay, so camera steadies up there, so let's hit the I key, and let's add that, and you can see that each time I press full stop, it's adding the in and out points of the clip that I've just selected onto the timeline. So that'll do. Let's find the next one. Actually, that clip's quite long, but I can extend it in the edit anyway. So there's another clip now that focuses up here. I'm going to wait till that bloke leaves the shot. So let's cut in there. And let's mark an out. Full stop. And that's it. So I've taken another portion from that clip. Let's see if there's anything else to be had. Okay, so the camera moves, and I don't think there's anything else from that clip. So the next thing is the natural sort of response would be Why have I got my headphones on? I don't even know why I need my headphones on. I can basically open up this list and pick my next clip. But bearing in mind the shortcuts that I just told you about, what happens if you've already got the source window active and you press Shift 2 again? Well, that's sort of where the magic happens, because I have my source window active. If I press Shift 2, it loads the next clip. And if I press Shift 2, it loads the next clip. Shift 2, and Shift 2, and Shift 2, and so on and so forth. So in the rough cut phase of an edit, phase number 3, which I've identified, you can add 10 clips, 50 clips, 100 clips to the source window and very quickly go through using this technique and grab the bits that you need and have yourself what we would call a rushes pull or a GV pull or whatever they call it. There are a number of different terms that people use for this, but essentially it's a sequence that's just all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, all the useless stuff, the shots you don't like, they've all gone. So let me again review this. If I just make sure I'm at the top of my list of clips, I'll go there. Again, now I'm going to put the mouse away and I'm going to use this technique that I've just shown you to build this edit. So camera starts a bit of a pan there, so I'll hit I. Shot's a bit blown out, but we'll live with it for now. So there's a slow pan across there from right to left. I don't really like that, so maybe I like this one though. So this is better. Okay, so conversation begins, marking in. That's cool, let's have that. Marking out there. Full stop. And you can see that by adding the full stop, putting the full stop onto the timeline, that adds the clip to the timeline. Let me see if there's another nice one to be added. Okay, there's maybe, let's just play this. Bit of a look down there. Bit of a look to camera, I want to try and avoid that. And yeah, you sort of get the idea. Now this, these clips that I'm using here are they're quite old. We've got quite a lot more material, training material that I use. We've got some really nice stuff that was shot on a Blackmagic Ursa Mini. We've got some red stuff. We've got all sorts of stuff. But the reason I use this is because it's quite good to illustrate the points that I'm making. So to review, basically we can just really very quickly crash through and okay, let's just mute that. Crash through and makes very quick selections on the material that we're working with, and I found that to be like crazy useful technique in the past. The next thing I wanted to talk about is doing that same process, but this time using interview clips, and then we're gonna do a technique that's called pancake editing to combine the what we call GVs or cutaways or B-roll, which is what this is, with some spoken words, some talking heads. So let's do that. If I'm gonna go and just double check that we're still good with live streaming. Yep, everything seems to be okay. Nobody sent me any panic messages, so that's good. This light appears to be dying. It's probably getting progressively darker over the... Yeah, it's fine. It will be fine. You don't need to look at me that much anyway. So, next thing, we're going to go and have a look at EX1 clips. Now, I'm going to double-click this folder. I'm going to go into the folder and I'm going to see if there's any interviews. And I know from using this stuff for a long time that the interview here is a guy called Steve Mawson. And you'll see that there's already some in and out points marked. I'm just going to get rid of those. One thing that I will usually do when I begin to work with interviews is I will take a look at the audio side. So right now we're looking at composite video, but if you click this icon, it shows you the audio side, and I will need my headphones for this. So now if I bring this clip to the top, also good tip, the home key will jump your playhead to the beginning of an edit of a clip, or also if you're in a sequence, it will bring it to the beginning of a sequence. So I've done that, I've used that. I'm going to play this.
Okay, so can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah.
Okay, so by looking at the audio waveform here, I can see that this particular clip has both left and right feeds, so there's sound on both left and right channels. It's a stereo clip. On the left seems to be the top mic from the camera, and on the right seems to be the boom mic from the person who's recorded, the sound recordist. If I play this.
Okay, so can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, I'm Stefan Wyman.
Okay, so this technique's really cool because you can use that waveform to get the playhead where you want it. And then let's zoom out a little bit. Now if I hit the O key and then press play.
Yeah, I'm Stefan Wyman. I'm the team manager for Matrix Fitness Racing Academy.
I'm very clear because I can look at the waveform. I'm very clear when the interviewer speaks and when the interviewee speaks, and that's another really useful way, and another useful feature of using the composite video versus waveform. So if I go back, I know that I've got my in. If I hit the up on the arrow keyboard, on the arrows keys here, I'll jump to the top of the clip, and then it rolls to the out point. Okay, so I don't really want to add these onto this sequence, although I could, and sometimes I do. I actually want to make a brand new sequence so I can mix the two up. So I don't want GVs and interviews on the same timeline yet. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to click and drag this, and this is a cool little technique that you probably know, but if you don't, it's one that's quite useful to know about. If I click and drag this and leave it onto this page icon here, that creates me a brand new sequence, and now these two sequences are sitting side by side. It's not good practice to not label these, so actually while I'm going to do it, I'm going to right click this one, I'm going to reveal it in sequence, and I'm going to call it Cheshire Classic GVs, and then I'm going to also reveal this one in sequence, and I'm going to call this one IV selection. Now, in the real world, if this not in a webinar, I would be a lot more specific about how I label these. It's really very, very important that you get the labeling right when it comes to sequences. Generally, if you work for an organization, there will be a convention that they stick to. So there'll be like a series of codes and characters, and it's very, very important, especially in broadcast, to get that stuff right, because once the thing's delivered, it goes to TX, there's machinery that needs to read the codes right, and if you get that wrong, then yeah, it's a problem. Also, if you're not clear about what a sequence is, you might come to it 2 weeks time and not understand what it is. So you should always be very, very clear about what your sequences are. Anyway, we've added one soundbite to the timeline, so let's just give that a play.
Yeah, I'm Stefan Wyman. I'm the team manager for Matrix Fitness Racing Academy.
Okay, now the playhead stops at the end of that clip, so let's go back and shift 2. And there is a way of making a shortcut to switch via the keyboard to composite video and between composite video and audio waveform. But actually on this loop deck, which I'm now using, I'm very early days with this, by the way. I use the keyboard a lot. But the loop deck, I'm slowly adding things to it as I go along. And one of the things that I really like is that I'm able now to just go audio waveform, and that's a user customizable button that I've added, so I can switch between audio waveform and composite video and carry on working without the need to do the mouse. Okay, so let's.
You got a good team up for this race today?
Yeah, I think we've got a really strong.
Okay, so it says really strong team.
And lots of talent in the team, so we're expecting to be able to put in a
Really good performance. Okay, so that'll do for me. Full stop. Add it to the timeline. Let's get his next one.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
we never enter a race.
So he goes using the arrows. Okay, so let's whiz it back a bit. This one's a bit tricky to get right, so I'm just zooming in. There you go, that's the one.
So it's the only way to maximise what we're doing, but we'll certainly be focused on ourselves, not on the opposition today.
Okay, so there's my out. Full stop. Now I'm going to go shift 3. Use my plus keys, my plus and minus keys to zoom in and out. I'm going to hit the home key, brings my playhead to the beginning, hit space. And while we're talking about shortcuts, there's another one. Control and full screen because I've got configuration of things going on. Control and the tilde key will maximize and will give you what's known as cinema mode. Please feel free, by the way, in the questions, if you're watching and you're like, I'm on a Mac, I don't know what, can you tell me what that is on a Mac? Please feel free in the questions, and I will answer those questions. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to go home.
Yeah, I'm Stefan Wyman. I'm the team manager for Matrix Fitness Racing Academy. Yeah, I think we've got a really strong team of 6, and lots of talent in the team, so we're expecting to be able to put in a really good performance. We never enter a race without a team tactic, so it's the only way to maximise what we're doing, but we'll certainly be focused on ourselves, not on the opposition today.
Okay, so I now have a selection of 3 talking head sound bites on the timeline. We need to continue to build on that. Maybe he's got a little bit more, so
There isn't anyone else listening,
Yeah, I think
obviously.
it's kind of full screen that.
I mean, it's a good tough course. It's in here. It's all course here. I mean,
So I'll zoom in a little bit.
it's a good.
I think he goes in there.
It's a good tough
Yeah,
course.
you go.
There's some pretty obvious parts on the course where people traditionally attack, and I think we're gonna try to break the norm and see what we can do in other parts of the course, really.
Okay, so tiny bit waffly, but the process of chopping that up into smaller bits will happen when I get onto phase 4 of my my list, which is the finesse, the edit. For now, that's fine. If I want to see him back in vision, I'll just hit a composite video, and then I'll full stop, and there you go. The extra step of having the loop deck I find quite useful, but it's not necessary. I've been doing this for years without using a loop deck. I'm just finding this a little bit nice because it's just... I did actually configure myself a shortcut to show audio waveform, and if you want that one, I'll show you now. Under keyboard shortcuts, I have a series of ones that I've customized myself, but if you ever need to customize a shortcut so that it's available to you, you just need to know the name of it. So if I say show audio, I'm just doing a quick search, and then it basically lists, there you go, so it's source, show audio time unit, so that's not right. So let me remind myself what the actual name is. Drag audio only, so... Yeah, alright, I'm going to round myself that later. It is a shortcut that you can customize, but it's actually easier to just have a loop deck and do that. And I've got to say, I am enjoying that particular functionality of it. Okay, so moving forward, what I've shown you is the way you can flip from one clip to another. Well, in the context of this, why don't we just close these and then add 1, 2, 3, 4 interviews, and then go to our top interview. Let's see this guy. We'll go back to the audio side. I know I can start there. There's no point wasting time listening to the front because I can actually see that a lot of it isn't relevant. So I'll hit the space bar.
Hi, I'm Steve Morrison. I'm the head of strategic projects for Halfords. We're invited to
I'll speed him up a little bit.
take off for any of the riders that need it, so that's why we're here.
Okay, that'll do. Thanks, Steve. Let's take your next point.
Well, we get approached by lots of...
Let's just use my arrow key. Get that a bit tighter.
Well, we get approached by...
And there's two like Wii's there. So
We get approached
here you
by
go.
lots
That'll
of
do.
people, as you can imagine, throughout the year, but this one appealed to us. One of our key objectives as a business is getting into women's cycling more. So it's a good field, it's very competitive, so we thought this was a good thing to follow.
Okay, that'll do. Thank you. Let's have the next clip.
Given the weather...
Let's get rid of the
Given the weather, I suspect...
blasting through.
Absolutely ready.
Okay, so now I have some good sound bites. Let's go next. Let's load the next interview. Let's see who's talking. Okay, so that will be this person. Let's go audio. I know that because I use this material a lot, I know that the better part of the interview is towards the end. So I'm just gonna get my playhead, press play, zoom in a little bit.
I don't know really. It's an interesting race this year because there are previous to this year there's always been some people who have been flying, but it's an open race this year because former winners.
That is my favourite. It's an
There's always been some people who have been flying, but it's an open race this year because former winners are
riding. Full stop. Thank you.
But it's an open.
Okay, there are some modifiers you can use with the JKL keys. If, for instance, if you hold Shift and press J, you lock in a slow reverse.
It's an open race. It's an open race this year because former
and it allows you to just get a little bit more precise about your selections. That'll do. There's my selections. Okay, so I like that one. I'm just gonna stick that one at the front there. And then I said before, we've now got a combination. We've got two sequences. We've got one sequence that's got GVs, as in cutaways, B-roll, and the other sequence we've got has got some talking heads, some sound bites. Now, this is a bit of a workspace hack, what I'm about to show you, but it's referred to as pancake editing. And I've seen the term pancake editing referred to a couple of different techniques, but this, if I'm talking about pancake editing right now, this is what I mean. So I'm going to click and drag my IV selection sequence from here like that and let go and have it there. And now just increase the size of it. And we've got stacked sequences now. So on the top is my GVs. And I've muted that. And on the bottom is my sound bites. Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna change the order of that. Let's have it so I want my GVs at the bottom like that. Okay. So I can then use that to space these out a little bit and scrub through and find if there's any GVs that I like that are relevant to the conversations. So why not? On this occasion, I'm actually gonna lose the sound here because it's not very good. So these clips you'll see are actually linked, and I've got link selection turned on. So if I hit the video portion of a clip, the sound is also selected. I like link selection turned on. There are different people work in different ways. Some people like to turn that off. For me, I prefer to turn it on because if I move a clip there, they move together and it minimises any sort of risk of losing out of sync or losing the sound from a clip. Anyway, I keep link selection turned on, but if I hold the Alt key, this works on both PC and Mac. If I hold the Alt key and click and drag, I can actually just lose that whole chunk of sound and not lose the picture. So the Alt key is a really good, and really another good keyboard modifier that really takes your editing sort of to the next level once you know about it, because it really helps you move around quicker. And yeah, you can keep link selection turned on, but you can make trims with the Alt key. You can make selections with the Alt key. If you're not aware of it, put it on your radar. If you are, well done. It's good. We know it's good. We like it. So I've got this bit here. So there she is. So I'm going to basically just literally, that probably makes sense to me. I'm going to click and drag that and put that there. Now, obviously with no music yet. Let's cut back to see Stefan. Now what does he say?
Yeah, I think we're the Matrix Fitness Racing Academy.
So there's going to be a jump cut here, which I want to hide with a cutaway. So let's see, what's he say?
Yeah, I think we've got a really
strong team. Okay, so this will work. This one will go up here, and you can see that you go through that process of selecting all the usable GVs and all the usable cutaways from the material that you've got. You then make a selection on all the sound bites and you put them in a rough order that you like, that tells the story. And then the next phase is to go through the cutaways on the timeline of the cutaways, and wherever one ties in with the sound bites that you see on the timeline, click and drag, repurpose, and you can have the things open at the same time, and that's the key. So if I go back here,
yeah, I think we've got a really strong team.
So I want to get out of that clip a bit quicker, maybe give it a bit more time. And the reason I'm adding things here is because I'm going to feed some music up and down just to sort of give the edit a bit of life.
Yeah, I think we've got a really strong team, team of 6.
So let's have a scrub through and see if there's any other relevant cutaways for me. I already used that one. There are some things you can turn on that will alert you to the fact that if you've reused cutaways. That's quite useful as well, depending on how big the edit gets. Why don't I take that one? That's a nice one.
A really strong team, team of 6, and lots of talent in the team. So we're expecting to be able to put in
Really good performance. And then let's see, why not this one? This one can bridge the jump between these two clips.
Fitness Racing Academy.
Probably used that one already. So just stick that one there, trim it down to size. And there you go. That's the process. And the key take home, the key things to take home and remember is that once you've added a number of things into the source window, a number of clips, Shift 2, when it's active, will load the next clip. Shift 2, next clip. Shift 2, next clip. And that's great because the mouse can get away, because you can then JKL, arrow keys, I and O to mark in and out point, take that selection either using the insert or the overwrite onto the timeline, and you can basically blast through and view the rushes, view the material that you've got, without sort of worrying about the UI so much. It's just a case of I like that, take that, take that, take that, and then over the course of a very short period of time, you'll have a selection of all the best stuff. And then the same goes with your GV, the same goes with your sound bites and your interviews. If you repeat that same process by switching between audio and video, and then just taking the clean in and the clean out as best as you can, and again, making a sequence with those, then the workspace hack, the pancake editing, basically you can have stacked up. You can go through your sound bites and go through your GVs without needing to open anything else. They're open right there in front of you. And just literally click and drag, and build your rough cut, and get it into a shape where it makes sense, and you can show it to someone, you can show it to the edit producer, you can show it to the client, whatever. But it's in a state where it's ready to sort of, it's not things in bins, it's actually on the timeline, but it's not junk on the timeline either. It's good stuff on the timeline, and that technique for me is something I've used for quite some time now, and I'm yet to find a more effective one. I'm not going to say that there isn't one, there probably is, but for me it works really well, and it allows me to get stuff done really quickly in a sort of in a logical manner. So that is probably the end of this session. To go into any more detail was something I don't really want to do. I don't want to open up any more topics. We said that we'd have 10 minutes for questions and stuff, so I'm going to just go over and check on the YouTube feed. And stream URL. If there's even anyone watching, and I don't exactly know how this is working. Yeah. How do you alternatively both to be held on both channels? Okay, good question. So, question asking how to hear the audio on both channels. So the way to do that, it can be done either on the timeline. I'm just going to put this back to its normal state. It can be done either on the timeline or in the project window. But let's say, for instance, it's on the timeline, right? We want to deal with this on the timeline. There are a couple of different ways to do this. There's a shortcut and there's a right click, and there's an also and go to clip and do it there. But we'll go right click, and we're going to go audio channels. And when you right click the audio channels, it brings up like a little matrix that shows you the existing channels on this clip and in which direction they're output. So you'll see that this clip is it's stereo, and it's got left and right information, and the source channel has also got left and right information. And right now, the left comes from the left and the right comes from the right. Now we want to get rid of the left, and we want it going full right. So if I literally want to get rid of the left channel and have the right doubled over, all I do is click that, back out, and click OK. And now you can see, if I play this for you,
Open race this year because former winners aren't riding.
that whole clip is now, the left channel has been discarded, and the right channel is the one that we can hear. Now I said there's different ways to do this. You can actually do this en masse. So if I make a selection on all these clips, again right click, and audio channels, it brings up that same menu, and when that menu is presented to you, however many clips that you've selected, it will basically do that for all of them, which is really, really good. Another way I'll do it is if I know that at the very beginning of an edit, the project, all of these clips have that same audio configuration. So actually, before I even start working with them, I can make a group selection. And actually, on this occasion, the shortcut for this is Shift G, and that works both on PC and Mac. So if I go Shift G, it opens up that same box. You'll see the preset here is use file, but I'm going to ignore that. I still want it one audio clip, that clip being stereo, and I want that clip to double over whatever was on the right to go on the left, and then click OK, and then that's that. So that's done. This technique that I've just shown you actually is extremely useful when it comes to working with stuff like FS7 clips. If I Control I, and then if I go to my G-RAID and my work and my backups and pre-2020, let's see. So I'll go there. I'm just going to bring anything in. So this is some FS7 stuff. I haven't looked at this in a very long time. Now this, oh my lord, this is a nice bass guitar.
When you see the yellow.
And the sound as well, so let's just make sure that's muted. If anyone's ever worked with FS7 clips, you'll be aware of this behavior. You bring an FS7 clip onto a timeline. Okay, that's for some reason that's not. Let me just go and modify audio channels. Okay, yeah. So it's a quirk of the FS7. Whenever you bring the clips in, it comes with. Can you explain the purpose of the icons of the timeline? Yes, but not in this. Not in this one. Future ones potentially. I can go into a little bit of detail. Mute and solo. There's a few other ones actually which I could probably show you. I think I've probably still got time. Yeah, do you know what? Why not? I'll do that. But on the subject of clips that come in with too many audio legs, if I go over and reveal the audio channels here, and click that there, you can see I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 audio channels, and I only really want 2. It's a bit of a quirk with Sony stuff, and anyone who's ever used FS7s will know in the edit that this is a thing they usually do. Anyway, I'm going to hit the shortcut Shift and G, and it's going to open up that same audio config window that you saw before on the EX1 clips, and it shows you've got a number of clips that the camera generates. That's 8. I actually only want 2. And it says, then it gives you an option which ones you want. Now, if your good sound is on any one of these, then you want to pick that. But generally speaking, it's left and right, and it's 1 and 2. So I'll leave it like that and click OK. That warning tells you that this clip is already on a timeline, and doing this will not change the config of that clip on this timeline. Now, if I click and drag this and make a new sequence with it, you're going to see that it's got 8 audio legs. It's not got 8 audio legs, it's got 2 audio legs. And I'm just going to go and Shift E to disable those. To go into a little more detail about what some of the things do on the timeline, just to address another question while I've got a little bit of time. You'll be, in Adobe land, you'll be familiar with the I symbol. So if I get my playhead that park above 2 clips that sit atop one another, so let's just get that and trim that over there. So you can see that the order of these clips is such that on V2 the clip is above V1, and so as soon as it cuts to that point there, you'll see the clip above and not the clip beneath. Whereas if I was to turn that off, that basically hides that clip and disables its output. So that's what the I does. You've got a symbol for lock, which will basically disable anything happening to that particular clip on that particular track. So nothing can be added. When this lock has been clicked, nothing can be added to this track. And I use this quite a lot for when edits are what you would call locked. So if you hold the shift key, you can actually lock everything, and I find that quite useful when you've got the edit to the point where you don't want to fiddle with it. Lock the tracks, and then you have to make a conscious effort to unlock. And I do that as well if I'm handing edits to other people. Like in my notes, I'll say, right, this is locked. Don't work on this. Work on a duplicate. That's actually quite crucial, but that's probably another conversation for another day. And then I think, yeah, if I hit play now, do you know what? I'll get some music on to demonstrate this. So let's go back and let's go to media, music, and let's just take that and let's just kill the volume of that. Okay, so just gonna mark it out. Take that down there. Scroll that up like that. If I play this, you're going to discover very quickly that you've got a combination of music and sound bites that we don't want. If temporarily, before I start any mixing, I want that music to be gone, I can hit the M key or M button and that will mute it.
Open race this year because former winners aren't riding.
Now, if for whatever reason I'm doing some work on this music and I want to mix it and I don't want to hear any sound bites, I could do one of two things. I could mute the channel that the sound bites are on and get rid of them, or I could solo the music, and when you solo something you only hear whatever is on that channel, that audio channel. Okay, so anything else is automatically muted. So solo is good when you've got lots of things going on, and mute is good if you want to lose something temporarily just while you're doing a mix or you're checking the volume or something. And that's pretty much it. There isn't loads more to know, although it takes quite a long time to learn the intricacies of all this, and it really takes practice above all else. And yeah, I think the final thing to say is this we will cover on another webinar, but I just want to finish off by going through a couple of slides that I set up for this thing. So let's just go full screen PC. MediaCity Training, we've put these webinars together. We normally do face-to-face training. We have a training room at MediaCity, which right now is empty because we're in the middle of a lockdown. But when things get back to normal, we do face-to-face training, and we run through a lot of the things that we talked about today. The kit that we use is good stuff. This is stuff that our hardware partner that we purchased from our hardware partner Scan. The machine that you can see me working with right now is what you would see on their website, the 3XS website, Pro Video. This is a 4K rig, and it's just fabulous. It's really nice to work with. We got some really nice monitors provided by BenQ. They helped us out with those. They're really, really nice. We like those a lot. The keyboard that you saw me using today is a Logic Keys backlit keyboard shortcut keyboard, and it's fantastic. I love it. I really like it. We've got 6 of them in the training room, 7 if you count the trainer, and they're really good fun to use. And in the early days of using Premiere, having the shortcuts right in front of you I cannot overstate how helpful that is. The streaming kit that we're using, I'm shooting on an FS7. The battery's died halfway through. This light that I have, mental note, I will charge it for next time. We're shooting on a Roland VR 1HD. Sorry, we're going through a Roland VR 1HD, which is being fed into a laptop, and we're recording into OBS. We're streaming through OBS. The microphone you can hear me talking to is an NTG1, and that pretty much covers it. I put these up because these are some great resources to learn from. These are some online places, and this is a book. The cool stuff in Premiere Pro is by far the best book I've ever read to sort of get to a bit under the skin of Premiere. So yeah, if you play this back, you can get to this point and just hold that slide. I'm Alex McLeod. You can get me at alex@MediaCityTraining.com, at Premiere Guy, or I'm on Vimeo, Alex McLeod. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you got something out of this. Any questions, again, stick them on the YouTube channel. And yeah, I'll see you all for the next one. Goodbye.